That was Judy Machado that couldn't stand it, couldn't believe, because we just had a very interesting conversation. As you know, I'm Angel Ribo with Expansion Network, always every single day accelerating the consciousness of humanity. And this is the Reality Check on the Planet program, Living Without Fear. We have this show every single Saturday with Judy Machado. She's in Toronto, Ontario in Canada right now. Welcome to Expansion Network. Welcome to the Reality Check on the Planet that we do every single Saturday. How are you, Judy?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's Saturday. Another beautiful week has passed. Another beautiful week ahead. And I'm so grateful to be here, Angel, with you. Always start my Saturday morning this way. And anyone else who's on here, hello. What a beautiful gift for us to all be here together and just share this space and this energy as we start the weekend.
Absolutely. I couldn't subscribe to your words more. And basically, I was, before the show, we started a little bit late today, but the reason is because we're talking about how special this, ceremonial cacao and can you call them ceremonial tea as well?
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to ask you, so, I mean, Judy will talk more about the cacao and the tea, but so how is the tea? So how is the cacao tea made? Is it like the tea, the leaves from the cacao plant itself?
Yeah.
How is it?
So interesting. I have a cacao pod right here.
Oh, awesome. Good.
The cacao pod. And these little babies grow on the trunk of the tree. First starts with this beautiful little flower, and then it turns into this beautiful pod and grows bigger and bigger. Now in here, this is dried, but in here is a fruit. So I always describe it as this gorgeous white fruit that looks a little bit like oranges. It resembles, even though it's long in here, you can pick it sort of like a piece of an orange, it's all separate pieces, just like an orange. And in those pieces.
So this is not the fruit. This is not the fruit of the plant.
The fruit that's inside here looks like it's white, but it looks like an orange where it has pieces that you pull apart, and then it has it sticks to each other. And in each of those pieces is one of the cacao seeds. And so that seed, what happens with that seed is it has a husk, right? It's an outer husk. That is how we make the cacao tea. So inside the seed is the actual cacao, the 100% cacao, which you just grind into a paste, starts with a paste. But if you take the seed, the outer part of the seed, as we know with so many fruits and vegetables, the skin or the seeds are so nutrient as well, so incredible. And the cacao husk, what happens in the process is it gets separated. The inside, it's removed, and then the outside is very, very light because it's the seed, and it gets put into one section, and we turn that, we literally infuse that in really hot water so that it becomes a tea.
Interesting.
From the husk come out. So it's much lighter than the cacao, but it's still equally as powerful in terms of helping us to continue to open up our hearts and give us that theobromine energy, which is, I love to talk about this because it gives you this sort of enhanced creative energy and physical energy, but it also slows down your mind. Like it's the craziest feeling because you're like excited, you got all this energy, you're moving, but you also are in this place where things show up for you and you're like, oh, hang on a second. It's like you're seeing things for the first time. It slows you down so your perspective can be increased so that you can start to actually, stop living this pattern of, oh my God, I'm busy. When you're drinking the cacao, you're actually, because it's helping you to sprinkle these stories of yours, these beliefs, these things. So it brings like up memories or something in your awareness that because you're slower, you can look at it and go, oh, why am I thinking of that? Right. Oh, wait a minute. I'm seeing another perspective around this thing. Oh, wow. I have this whole story around this thing. And this is why I've been so angry when I'm just seeing this other perspective right now. And you, in this elevated awareness and consciousness, we are so humbled and we are so compassionate. And you see it from a place of truly understanding that truth wasn't the only truth, that there are other truths out there. And so you can just release this, it's this way, it must be this way story that we've been holding on to. It's such a beautiful experience.
How difficult is it how do you call that cacao thing?
The pod.
The pod. Okay, you call it the pod. Okay, so and the fruit is inside. How
Yes.
difficult is it? I mean, obviously you bought it in Ontario, right? In Canada,
No,
or
I
not?
actually brought a ton of these back from Peru.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
What
Okay,
I did
okay,
was
okay.
when I got there, they're everywhere, these cacao trees, right? So I bought a ton of them and I just dried them while I was there and then put them in my suitcase. So I have about 3 or 4 now left.
Very
Uh,
nice.
yeah, yeah, it's so
And
beautiful.
and the manufacturing of the cacao and the tea, the cacao powder and the tea
Yes,
that you sell through your store,
yes.
where are they manufactured?
Yeah, so again, it's interesting manufacturing, the word manufacturing. With the cacao, because it's so raw and natural, it's really
Exactly.
just the source. It's the farming, right? It's that source. So my powder, my cacao powder comes from Peru, and my cacao paste and the tea also comes from Peru, and the cacao paste comes from Ecuador. And so what happens is
Mm.
the farmers will pick these off the tree, open it up, grab the fruit, and take those little pieces apart and just throw them out on this sort of bed in the sun, and it dries. So the actual fruit helps to ferment the seed, and then it just kind of melts away, ferments, and all you're left with is the seed now, the dried, sun dried seed. And from there is where they crack it open. Some people have a little kind of vacuum type machine that kind of crushes it, and then the lighter flakes kind of go off to one side, and that becomes used for tea, and the heavier stuff falls, and then that gets ground. The actual seed that's in there gets ground, and that starts with the paste. Then you can process it, turn it into powder or butter or whatever you want to do. There's so many different ways, and as we know with chocolate, there's so many different processes.
Because the paste is basically it's fat, right? It's
Yeah.
fat
Yes.
actually, and that's important to know because I mean everybody out there's many people doing different kinds of diets, and there's this diet called keto, and
Yeah.
sometimes people have a hard time finding the right products and the right quality fat
Yeah.
for them to live on through
Yeah.
the keto diet. And actually cacao is one of the best things that you can actually eat. And again, I have been personally attracted to like 70% cacao, 80% cacao chocolate, these kind of things, historically speaking. And I really don't like the milk chocolate, or I don't like the really sweet chocolate because it's more sugar than chocolate, but than cacao, excuse me. But what I was going to say is, if you look at the nutritional facts of any chocolate you're going to buy,
Oh,
just checking the amount of fat, you
oh,
will realize if it's a real, good, genuine, uh, cacao that is inside the chocolate or not, right? Is that the first statement, Judy?
yes, that is an absolutely fair statement, is how healthy of a fat. And you're right, with cacao diet, there's so many people looking for cacao nibs or even just the pure cacao, which is what we drink here together every week. It's just 100% paste, and powder you can mix too, but there's nothing added to it. It's just the pure, delicious cacao that you're drinking. And you only need to drink a little bit too. It's so incredibly powerful from a standpoint of mind, body, and spirit. But I'm so happy you brought up chocolate, because I like to talk about that too, because chocolate is such a beautiful, dark chocolate is such a beautiful thing to include in our diet, especially if you can buy something that's called bean to bar, where these very few, like less than 5% of chocolate makers buy the beans themselves, roast the themselves, and make the cacao themselves. Most just buy this sort of paste already, like this processed paste, not like the cacao paste has other stuff in it, sugar and milks and things like that. And so I always say to people, when you're going to buy chocolate, look at the ingredient listing, because it's crazy how many ingredients are in most chocolates. There's like 15 ingredients. It's like, why are we putting all this stuff, soy oils, like all this stuff into these chocolate bars, when really I always encourage everyone, find what's called bean to bar chocolates, because it'll say that right on the package, and that means they're using usually 2, 3, maybe 4 ingredients, and it's all natural. It might be some sort of a cane sugar, some kind of natural sugar, but then it might be nuts or seeds, but it's just pure cacao. So delicious. Makes such a delicious like snack and treat, even though it's so healthy for you.
Yeah. So let me Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, at the end of the show, we'll make sure that everybody knows how to reach out to you, where to find you. But let's go back to what's going on in the planet, right?
Yeah.
Things are not stopping. Obviously, we're going through one of the most amazing moments in history. We are so blessed to be here, and we are so blessed to be witnesses of this and being able to live it and be also beacons of this big change that's going on in the world in a massive scale. So how has the week been in Toronto, Canada? Again, it's the 26th week of the year, by the way. So this was exactly the 26th out of 52. So we're in the middle of the year. The solstice, the summer solstice just passed last week or 2 weeks ago. So we're really in a very special place right now. How is Toronto evolving? How are things going in Canada? Because also this week was Canada Day, right?
Yes, which has been interesting.
So all together, right?
Yes, all together. And so Toronto just moved into phase 2, which is salons are allowed to be open, but restaurants are still closed. So just patios. But what's interesting is Vancouver has removed all restrictions as of Canada Day. And it was like, how did that happen? I totally missed that. I was talking to a friend, and yet I'm noticing all these people who I know here in Toronto who are traveling out there. Over the last couple of days, we're flying out there, some of which were flying without masks. Two families, 8 people together, flying without a mask because they have the that form that is now made available for all. Before it was only made available through doctors, through if you had maybe a child or a family member who had special conditions. So that was interesting to watch them as well go through the entire process. They recorded it going through. But Vancouver is open. Toronto is still not. Ontario is not. And yes, it was Canada Day, and there was all this discussion because of what's happened recently here, as you know, with the residential schools, with the Indigenous. And so there's this big movement here where a lot of people are looking to literally cancel the celebrations for Canada Day because the understanding from them is that who are we to celebrate Canada when we took all of this land, all of this from the Indigenous who were here first. And so there's this
let me stop you, because as you know, Judy, sometimes we just guess that everybody knows what we're talking about, but in reality I know only a little bit. I just saw maybe one post somewhere isolated, but you're talking about graves. You're talking about
graves that have been found for children over.
Exactly. Could you please elaborate on that, because I think that people don't know this.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I guess the beginning of time with where Canada, we settled here. So there were obviously Indigenous living all over the land in Canada, in certain parts, in their tribes, living this beautiful life. And all of a sudden, people came to discover Canada and to claim Canada and literally remove them from their land, removed their children, and created what's called residential schools. And took these children into these schools and no longer allowed them to be near their family and continue their cultures, but now to learn English, now to learn, to become part of their way. This is real, and this happened here in Canada in a very big way. When they came and settled, they literally took land away from them, just removed them, and took apart all of what they were, and this beautiful connection to land. And so what's happened is these things called residential schools were created, where they would take these kids and put them in these schools.
And they are all over the country?
All over, yeah. I believe it's all over. I'm not sure actually in Toronto. That's a very good question. There's some information I'm not 100% sure about, but definitely out west, they're finding this. And so they found all these residential schools. They found graves of very young children. Over 700 of them.
What?
Yeah.
700? But they were like in the
right outside of these schools. So they have these fields where the kids would play and everything, and that's where they would bury them. And they're all.
But they were not visible, right? They were not visible.
They weren't visible. They were unmarked graves, and somehow they went in with something, and they were able to see that, I don't know, the machinery or whatever they used. But once they found one, they discovered this a few weeks ago, and I think there was like 170 graves, I believe it was. And then they realized, oh my God, we need to check all these residential schools.
Are they still working schools? I mean, those are schools that still.
I don't know, actually.
Okay.
That's a good question. I haven't.
Sorry about that. It's just trying to.
That's a great question, because I have seen that these schools still look like they're behind, these fields. So I don't know if they're being used as schools or it's a home now. Very good question. And yeah, what I'm sharing, I know sort of little bits as well. I haven't watched the news. I just kind of watched on Facebook a few things, and I'm aware of what the bigger picture is. So please pardon me if I say anything that might be inaccurate for anyone listening. And it's just been obviously devastating because the government has sort of been blaming the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church, there's a sort of thing.
Openly? The government openly has blamed the Catholic Church?
Yes.
Really, like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has said, like, you need to make an apology. And so there's a lot of people who are, all of us actually, who are really disappointed that, why don't we just talk about this? Why don't we all say we're sorry? Let's actually acknowledge this so that we can, and make sure this never, ever, 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 ever happens again. But the reality is that was like a moment in time with these cultures that were so ingrained in the earth. Like, you can't see that today, right? Like, it's incredible that we had and we continue to have in some cases, but these families were pulled apart, these cultures, these tribes. It was just crazy what was happening. And so there's a lot of people, this is new, they've gone to some other schools. They found, now they're almost, I heard they're over 700 unmarked graves, and they continue to search now. And it's just crazy, because the question is, why are they all small? Like, what happened to all of them? How did they die? Why did they all die when they were small? So obviously they were killed. There wasn't some mass disease or something going on. So it's like, and that's what I find. I mean, again, I'm not 100% aware of everything, but what happened? I guess I don't know if we don't know what happened, or if we're asking that question. I mean, but it's crazy. It's really crazy what's happening. So again, we know this is the time where the energies are shifting, and anything that is not for the greater good is surfacing. It has nowhere to survive. It's coming right to the surface. And this is an example of that. And we will continue to see so many examples of this, where it's like, what? This person who we thought was like this beautiful person to, wanting to support us for the greater good actually is involved in this. I mean, this stuff's going to continue to happen, and it's going to get even more and more, because energetically it has to come to the surface so that it's part of our awakening, because it's all been kind of part of that illusion. It's coming to the surface, and then also so that it can eventually be like, okay, how do we forgive? Do we transmute it? Like, what do we do to move it aside so we can build that new earth, which is in fact around collaboration, spiritual practices, love, compassion, all of these beautiful practices, harmony, right? I love that word, harmony. Just feel that harmony, like it sounds like a melody. And that's the new earth that we're going to be creating. It's going to be based out of harmony. And so anything you hear and you feel, whether you watch the news or whatever, if you don't feel harmony when you're hearing a story, then that's the first, once we get connected to our hearts, we start to feel more, right? Again, we start to slow down so we can open up our perspectives, because we're all like this. This is how we've been programmed, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's happening. Oh yeah, that's happening. Oh yeah, and Indigenous, whatever. Let's move on. Like, you just, tomorrow you forget. Today you hear, tomorrow you forget. That's just the way we're all programmed. But it's like, no. Like, now it's time to slow everything down. And that's part of meditation, part of these beautiful spiritual practices, which, yes, takes some work. It takes a ritual, like a daily ritual. Spiritual has the word ritual. Spiritual, SPIRITUAL, spiritual. So what are the rituals in our lives? Again, the Indigenous, they know this. Everything's ritual, ritualistic, circles, energy, and that, unfortunately, we lost a lot of that. Why? Well, we just talked about, one of the reasons how that happened, and maybe that was deliberate, but it's time to bring ourselves back to earth, to feel into the compassion and the love, and to create this new earth, which is what we want. Instead of waiting here and asking for the government to do it, like, just do it. Like, we have the power anyway. We just come together and do it. We talked about, for the past 2 weeks, Paula, and supporting someone like this. Like, who is in your life that is making their favorite recipes that you can buy from, or that, is clothes or shoes or whatever it is, like starting to buy from individuals who are, they're building a life on their own. They're making things out of pure love, like their energy. This is how we want to start to shift. And can you imagine when most of us are buying all of our foods from this person over here who has this massive garden and loves to grow lettuce, and this person over here who has, loves tomatoes, and we're all just like buying from each other, and more people do this. That's how we change, and we create this new world. Yes, it's not like this. We're all like, oh my God, it's not going to happen. What is the point for me to support, when it's like, of course it is. Do you realize the energy that you create sometimes on the other part of the world, like the fluttering of the butterfly, right? The wings can create fluttering on the other side of the world just from the wind. Like, we don't even realize how powerful we are with our choices, with our decisions. And when we make a decision, make a choice, become aware, be more compassionate, that flutters onto literally the other side of the world. Every little thing we do makes a difference.
And implied in your words, Judy, is the fact that in order to see what is in the dark, there has to be more light, right? So there's definitely more light right now. There's definitely more light than ever before. This is something that's happening right now, and that's why all those things are surfacing, right? Obviously, I would love to. I'm sure that knowing, I remember the first time myself, I went to Vancouver and British Columbia, right? I remember how strong, like, everybody would talk to me during business meetings. I would have these business meetings with the oil and gas industry, and I would have a lot of conversations about the indigenous communities, about the, how sensitive the local community was about it, how the oil and gas industry was sensitive about the indigenous communities and respecting the rights and everything, because obviously they were doing a lot of things in that area. And I would love to be able to talk to someone who knows firsthand what's going on and what's being discovered. Just to come, it's not about, having, more wasps, and making more noise. It's just about, making peace with the past, making peace with the past and being in harmony. And also another word they like to use a lot for everybody in the audience as well is discernment. How do you discern between what you're hearing and listening and what you think is right or not? What kind of, due diligence are you doing yourself? What kind of research you're doing? This is every day more and more important that you're able to develop that discernment in order to really decide what you do with the information that is being presented to you, right? Because at the same time, it's like, you never know. It's like with we are so reliant on what's going on in general in the news, right? That it's difficult to discern between what is really true and what is not true, what has been, fabricated and what is really true. And again, this is a place, this program, this show is a place for, building bridges and making sure that everybody feels welcome. And at the end of the day, you use a great word that I really like to use, which is harmony. Actually, very often I wish harmony to my friends on LinkedIn. Very, very often I actually tell them, hey, I wish you harmony, for the upcoming year to your life, health, harmony, and prosperity. Those are the three things I wish people typically, because exactly, harmony is extremely important. But anyway, here in Texas, obviously right now it's 3rd of July, so it's just one day after Canada Day, but it's also the 4th of July here in the US tomorrow. So it's a very important day. And in Texas, as you know, we have been pretty open with almost no restrictions for many weeks or months already. You know, the schools are opening the second week in August, and they're going to be open with no face coverings. You know, so if you come to Texas right now, it's, I mean, you know, people with face coverings is the exception. I mean, the new cases are really under control. There's only a few, and really people are living freely. And the celebrations for the 4th of July already started this week, because people are craving connection. People are craving, you know, celebration and being with others, and hugs and kisses and holding hands and praying for them, for the families, for their country. You know, as you know, Texas is a very proud state of being American. And also, as you know, for the last, I don't know if you know, but there's been for the last few months a secession movement. You know, there's people thinking, I think that, and mostly about after we had this issue over the winter that we had no power for many days, people were wondering also there's an incipient, you know, new movement about, you know, making Texas independent. But anyway, those are just things happening in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in order to see the darkness, there has to be additional light. And I think that this is exactly what's happening. That's why it's so important that we slow down, as you said, and the cacao can definitely help us to do that. And if we could bring, maybe, I mean, you are in Canada, maybe I should talk with some of my friends in Vancouver, but or in British Columbia. I would love to have someone next week to talk about this, right? Because I think it's important to see, I mean, someone that knows more about what's being discovered and the reasons of the death of these kids, how long ago were they buried, you know, these kind of things. And again, it's just to come into peace, you know, and because I didn't know that openly politicians were blaming the church, right? I think that we all have to be compassionate and not in a place of judgment. I mean, I was born Catholic, as many other Spaniards. You know, in Spain, Catholic Church is very strong, and I have a lot of friends, and I was part of the Catholic Church, like a civilian for many years. And again, you know, regardless of what has happened history to date, I think that we all, with everything that's happening in the world right now, we all have to go to a place of compassion and understanding, and you know, do what we have to do. You know, do what we have to do with what we have in our hands at every single moment in time.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. It's just so incredible, and I love that idea of, yes, let's understand what's really happening, because I think this is just the beginning. And a lot of people believe that, because they're now going to be continuing to search other schools and starting to have that conversation around, okay, what happened and how do we all heal from this? And not wait for the governments, you know, because, which is what a lot of people are like, expectations around what the government's going to do. How can we ourselves start to heal from this? And again, that's creating that new earth, right? It's again, not waiting for anybody. It's together making that happen. And I love that idea. I'm going to also look out for some people here, even in Toronto. I know that there's a few people who I know who are, you know, very involved. I just don't know in terms of their perspective. You know, obviously there's so many truths really to what happened here, as we know with anything. And so again, it's staying in a place of really understanding that there are different truths. And again, it's about the healing, and not so much, you know, obviously the blame. It's important to know where it came from so we can shift it. But it's also important to be able to see all the perspectives. So that's, yeah, I'm going to look at that too for next week. That'll be so perfect.
Yeah, that will be amazing. Yeah. And again, it's a matter of being open to see what's happening around us, because everything happens for a reason, and being able to share this firsthand and bringing different points of view. Again, you know, we're not here to separate anybody. It's unity. It's being united that we will be able to go through these all together and successfully, you know, make this world a better place. Because at the end of the day, I think that everybody wants to do that. So if people wanted to meet with you and wanted to know more about the cacao, about the tea, would like to understand more, you have a wonderful, you know, you have everything so established, so set up, so structured that you actually help people to even go through a challenge so that they can go through a self-discovery process through the cacao that you have been, taking care of for so many years now, right? So what's the best place to connect with you, Judy?
That's perfect. You say that. I'm Judy at justjudy.ca is my website. Is my email. But Goddess Temple Cacao, whether it's Instagram or website, Facebook, Goddess Temple Cacao is the fastest way to find me. But you're right. What I found when I originally was interested in cacao, and I had this remembering, was I wanted to find everything about it. I wanted to learn everything about it. I wanted to figure out how to make it. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? That's the first question I get. And just helping people to connect themselves with the cacao. And so I have this beautiful free download on my website, which again is goddesstemplecacao.com. And it will help you with the recipe, how to create a sacred space, how to connect with the cacao. So all of that's there for you for free. Just go ahead and enjoy that. And through there, you'll be taken through this beautiful process of supporting you should you wish to see more. For example, while I was away on my trip, many of you know I was away for about 3.5 months this past January, visiting 4 different countries. And on that trip, I recorded a beautiful 10 different videos, 8 lessons around cacao. And I call it my beginner's cacao daily ritual and ceremony digital program. And it's basically helping people to understand, what is consciousness? What does cacao have to do with consciousness? How does cacao have a consciousness? How do I connect with the cacao? How do I make the cacao? All those questions, it's all in this beautiful program, which I've created. And it's going to be available as of end of this week. So that's exciting too, is giving people a lot more information for such an inexpensive price point. It's going to be $22. And it's just this beautiful way for people to get in, get all this information, and then start their own. We even do a ceremony together. So then get in and start your own ceremony and start your own daily practice. Life-changing, beautiful, like magic carpet ride is what I call it.
Awesome. Hey, I think, Judy, we've done an incredible reality check on the planet today. We've touched upon several things happening in the world in different places. And I think that it's really appreciated. And this is exactly what the audience needs to know, because if it's not us, who, Judy? If it's not us, who? Would you like to end the show with some, magic words with the cacao that you have and the cacao I have?
Exactly. So if you have cacao with you right now, just bring it to eye level, enjoy, be with it, sit with it, literally become hypnotized by it. I always say, or at least cacao supported me with just noticing the surface and falling sort of lost in the surface. And then just calling in the cacao consciousness, inviting the cacao consciousness to take us into a higher awareness, and inviting us to start to see all the little blocks that are holding us back, start to have these come into our awareness so that we can just start to release those with love and start to step into who we really are, which is not the programs that we've become. And cacao's here to help us to do that. So we invite this beautiful higher consciousness to come into our awareness. Thank you, everyone. Satnam, namaste. And now we drink. And after we drink, we're going to end the show now, but after we drink, if you want to sit in meditation for a few minutes, it's beautiful. That's what I do always. And enjoy.
Again, thank you very much. Another Saturday, another Reality Check on the Planet show with Judy Machado here, Angel Ribo with Expansion Network, accelerating the consciousness of humanity every single Saturday. It's been a pleasure to be with you, Judy. Thank you for being with us again. And everybody watching us, thank you for being with us today. Have a wonderful week. For the ones in the US, happy 4th of July, happy holiday, because many people take a holiday after the 4th of July. For everybody in Canada, I hope that you had a great Canada Day this past week, and everybody else in the world. Thank you for being with us today. Muchas gracias, because we know we have a strong Latino following. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day and of the week, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.